The story of 2012 has been the story of the Taliban throwing everything they had at trying to regain ground in the south, in Helmand and Kandahar, and failing.
What have we been fighting for with the surge troops that went in 2009, and how have we succeeded so far with them?
Afghanistan is inherently more complicated to understand than Iraq for a whole bunch of reasons, and so people can be forgiven for finding it difficult to follow. The Taliban emerged in southern Afghanistan, in Kandahar province in particular, and established themselves in Helmand, and then spread to the northeast and ultimately took Kabul and so forth. So the south was the Taliban homeland. And in the south are the places where Mullah Omar preached and where all sorts of things that are mythical to the Taliban movement happened, and Kandahar really is their hub. In 2009, before the surge began, the Taliban effectively controlled almost all of Helmand and almost all of Kandahar, and they were getting ready to make their move on Kandahar city, principal population center there. And their control really wasn't being challenged. Our view was that we were in danger of losing quickly in 2009 if the Taliban completed gaining control. And in part as a result of that, surge forces were sent down there to challenge that control and to take back the Taliban's heartland. We've largely succeeded in doing that. And so we have taken away from the Taliban safe havens and sanctuaries that they had in the central Helmand River Valley, in the populated areas of Helmand province fundamentally, and also Kandahar city, which is now thriving in a remarkable way. I was just there a couple of months ago, and you can see people now swimming in the river, which I wouldn't want to do, frankly, but which they were clearly enjoying. And you see life going on in a much more normal way in the city because the Taliban have been unable to reclaim the areas that had been their strongholds that have been taken away from them over the last few years.
And they've been trying to get those territories back, and we haven't been there in full force to repulse them. It's been the Afghans who we worked with who have managed to hold that territory. Is that right?
The story of 2012 has been the story of the Taliban throwing everything they had at trying to regain ground in the south, in Helmand and Kandahar, and failing. They have not regained any of the safe havens that were taken away from them. They have not recaptured territory. They've been pushed back by a combination of Americans and Afghans, also including now local Afghans, who, for the first time in this conflict, have really started taking up arms against the Taliban in numbers, including in Sangasar village in Jari district in Kandahar province, which is where the mosque is that Mullah Omar preached at in the 90s, and which is the heartbeat, in a certain sense, of the original Taliban movement. There are now Afghan local police units, locals, who have stood up, are fighting the Taliban. I had the privilege of sitting down with them a couple of months ago and talking to them about why they were resisting the Taliban, what their concerns were.
What'd they say?
The Taliban, they say, has lost its legitimacy in their eyes. They say there was a certain reason to support the Taliban in the 90s when the land was completely disordered and they were the only ones who were bringing any sort of order to it. And the Taliban in the 90s, they say, were actually religious students. Now, the religious students of the Taliban, such as they were, are all in Pakistan. The leadership is all in Pakistan. Mullah Omar hasn't been in Afghanistan since 2001. He's a coward. He will not come back. Their leadership are cowards. They won't come back. The people that the villagers in Sangasar and other villages interact with are local thugs. They're 20-year-olds on motorcycles. They go around doing all kinds of things that they shouldn't be doing. They've lost legitimacy in the eyes of the people. And now they're just criminals who are committing crimes. And so the villagers are comfortable standing against them when previously they'd supported them, as long as they're confident that they will win the fight. And this is the reason why having Afghan security forces there who can support them are so important, and also why it's so important to have a remaining American presence there. Because as long as we have American forces there with the enablers we bring to bear with the helicopters and the air support, we can ensure that the local villagers and the Afghan security forces will win every fight they get into with the Taliban. And as long as they feel that way, they feel a tide of legitimacy turning their way against the Taliban.